Hello, my name is Nicholas Polymenakos. I work behind the scenes here at NORWAC, part of the social media team. And today I'm with Nadiya Shah. Hi, Nadiya.
Yay, Nicholas. It may not
Yes,
be obvious to everybody right now, but Nicholas and I are good friends. We've known each other at least 10 years now, I think.
it is
It
about,
is
yeah,
over 10
it is.
years, right? We shouldn't be dating ourselves, maybe, but yeah,
We are.
yeah.
It's been a good 10 years.
I know. I like to call it our Astro family, like we are Astro family. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, yeah, and speaking of family, NORWAC is has that theme of family. It's always been that way. And you are doing two lectures during the conference. The on Friday, 4:15 Pacific. Your first lecture, Introduction to the History and Philosophy of Astrological Magic. Can you
Exactly.
tell us a little bit
Yes.
about it?
Well, I will say this, I have a Sag moon, and so I like to get philosophical. And as much as it's fun to get into like the practicalities of it, and I do have practicalities in my talk, I really like exploring foundations and history and
Mm-hmm.
philosophy. And so I literally start at Plato. Like we start talking about what Plato's ideas were that he talks about in his works Timaeus and Epinomis, about how it is that we are connected to the planets. I really love and personally love planetary astrological magic in particular. One of my books, Prayers to the Sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything we're going to talk about in that lecture is actually in this book. And so I talk about people like Plato and Iamblichus and Plotinus and Ibn Arabi. And then we
Mm-hmm.
get practical as to like some tips to get people started. And then we go through each of the planets so that you understand a little bit of their nature. So as you approach the planets and you cultivate a connection with them, you're able to do so with that clarity as to where you're coming from when you practice astrological magic.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I think sometimes when people hear those names, it can seem daunting, right? It sounds like what you're talking about and what you will talk about is learning about that and then like practical applications and
Yeah.
that's
Like I'll give you an example.
hmm
Plato believed that the planets were especially high because they were the first physical embodiments of the gods. And he said that everything originates from source. And
hmm
then there's what's called vital chains that spring forward and create a link. They create a chain that goes to the planet and then connects to everything that's here on Earth. So, for
uh,
example, we have a source and then it goes to the sun. It connects to the sun by this vital chain or this vital link. And then that link comes down to sunflowers, right? It comes
hmm
down to lions. It comes down to royalty, like all of these things that we associate with the sun. It
hmm
is Plato who understood it as connected by vital links. And I think that is very powerful to understand. It helps you that much more as you approach your understanding of how to connect your intention with astrological phenomenon to give it that little bit of an extra boost to manifest what it is that you want.
Yeah, I'm glad you explained that. Thank you, because I like what I just heard. And it's you feel connected with the world and with nature and not feeling the separation. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
awesome.
it's a relationship, right? We're having a
Yeah.
relationship
hmm
not just with the sky, although it is with the sky, but it is ultimately a relationship with ourselves. And that's
hmm
why, like with my book, for example, Prayers to the Sky, I don't uh, right away hit you with saying this is astrological magic. To me, it is all about building a relationship. It's called To Know and to Love the Astrological Planets More Deeply. And it
hmm
really is how I approach the sky. And it is that sense of we are having a relationship with the external world, including the planets. And ultimately, that allows us to bring greater awareness, greater consciousness to these different parts of ourselves because we are complex, we are multifaceted people, and the planets become a mirror of that. And so, how do we dialogue with that, right?
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
we work with that so that we create with intention? I think that's part of astrological magic.
Oh, definitely. I agree. I agree. it's funny. I would say, hey, let's stop. We're stopping there one lecture, but no, you have another lecture on the Sunday, the third day of the conference. The name of that lecture is Moments of Change: Astrology and Myth to Illuminate Times of Personal Transformation. It's kind of like what you said for your first lecture. Kind of leads into in the sense, the next lecture. It almost feels like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the first lecture is a lot more about understanding how people have worked with the planets.
Hmm.
But yes, there's that element of myth of absolutely. It helps us so much to have a relationship with the planets if we understand their myths, in particular their origin myths. But
Hmm.
I think of this second class that I'm doing using like times to illuminate, these times of change and how we can understand them, how we can illuminate them. With that class, I actually start with some understanding of Jungian theory and how Jung
Hmm.
understood what's called, he said that life was this continuous cycle of crisis, chaos, calm, crisis, chaos, calm. And so sometimes we'll have these really heavy transits. And I focus in for that talk on Pluto, Uranus, and Saturn. Those are the ones I talk about.
Hmm.
And I explore some key myths associated with understanding those planets so that we can see what happens with us. And then I have some really cool celebrity charts with that. So I actually look at when big changes were happening in a celebrity's life, what was happening in the chart so that we can understand it more fully. But it is a deeper exploration of those three planets in particular, because I
Hmm.
feel like it's very undeniable. When it's Neptune, you kind of know you're having a transit, but you don't really know until it's over. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you're having a Pluto transit or a Uranus transit or a Saturn transit, and I know that you can relate to this as I can, that is when it becomes pretty obvious. It becomes pretty undeniable.
Yeah.
And in particular, I wanted to share, like with Pluto, there's a Sumerian myth of Inanna and her descent to the underworld. And this is a myth that goes back 6,000 years. And normally, when we think about Pluto, for example, we associate Hades, right? Or we associate Persephone and her
Hmm.
going into the underworld with Hades. But we don't often think about how this archetype has been understood, this understanding that we will have times in life that will allow us to release anything superficial and just
Hmm.
get to the essence, get to the essential, to really understand what matters more to its core. Um, I think that we forget sometimes that every culture has had myths around these particular themes. So that's one myth I really love, looking at the Sumerian myth of Inanna. And so we will be looking at that in the class and so much more. For Uranus, we'll be looking at Prometheus.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think it'll be a great class.
Oh, that's great. The Inanna story and myth is pretty much my favorite, by the way.
I know it's
Yeah,
amazing.
and it's
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's awesome. Nadi, where can people find you or know a little bit more about you?
I'm if you put Nadiya Shah in YouTube, not in YouTube, well, in YouTube, yes, but
Yeah.
it's interesting because the other day, and I'm not in the habit of Googling myself, but I decided to Google variations of my name. And I was Googling these variations of my name, and it was saying, "Did you mean Nadiya Shah, YouTuber?" And I was like, wow, Google,
You're at that level now.
that my picture comes up, even if you put a completely different spelling
Yeah,
of my name,
yeah.
which is very cool. But yeah, it's nadiyashah.com, or just put Nadiya Shah Astrology, however you think that's spelled. It doesn't matter. You put that in, you will find me.
Thanks, Nadia. And
Thank you,
for
Nicholas.
yes, no problem. For
I
those
adore you. I think that you're doing so great. And I know that NORWAC is going to be amazing. And
um,
as always, I know that you and all the amazing people of NORWAC are just gonna top yourselves, as you always do every year.
thanks for saying that, Nadia.
I know
Actually,
it.
we're all excited here, and I
Yeah,
think this conference is, because of the timing and what's going on, it's going to be unique and one of a kind thing, and it still will create community. For those of you
absolutely.
for those of you
Yeah.
watching, like if you still haven't registered, you want to know more about Nadia's lectures. We have explanation of her lectures and every other speaker and their lectures. We have pre and post conference workshops. If you're interested in registering, go to norwac.net.
And can
If
I
you do,
just say, it's like this faculty, it always is such a privilege to be associated with this faculty. I just think NORWAC is like this amazing value where you get to hear so many speakers, world renowned, like really the best speakers on the planet, the most renowned astrologers on the planet in one place. So it's such a privilege to be part of that.
awesome, Nadia. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today and giving us a little bit of a hint of what your lectures are going to be
Of the
about.
energy I will bring,
Yes.
yes. My Sag moon will be fully with you.
We need Sag Moon. We need your Sag Moon. um, well, thanks for joining us today, Nadia, and I guess we'll see you at the conference.
We will see each other without a doubt.
All
Yes.
right. See you
Okay.
later.
Bye.
Bye.